Majesty, Paolo is exhausted because, Majesty, only Paolo can take this and give you
a princess.
Better. Much better.
Many movies contain transformation scenes. Makeovers and transformations can be used for comedy, dramatic effect, or story. There is one particular subtrope under this blanket that we're going to focus on: unnecessary makeover as metamorphosis.
Monsieur.
Sandy? Tell me about it, Stud.
Transformation films center on the transformation of an unpopular protagonist. In the beginning of the film, the protagonist is portrayed as unattractive or unhappy and are portrayed in an exaggerated manner to increase the prominence of their perceived flaws. Both identities, pre- and post-transformation, rely on a stereotypical social structure. There are strict categories of people, for example, nerds and jocks. The emergence of the protagonist's new identity relies on these strict categories to define their new self, by either joining a different category or defying the categories altogether. The transformation film can be placed into two different categories: the adult transformation or the teen transformation. The adult transformation usually centers on an important event in the character's life, such as a wedding or a reunion. In the teen transformation, school is the primary setting for the film. The protagonist is discovered by someone in the popular crowd, and commonly an unlikely romance between the unpopular protagonist and a popular character will occur. The makeover scene has three main elements: the makeover montage, the song, and the big reveal. The montage is almost purely informational. It gives the audience a cinematic visual for the actual transformation. The song that accompanies the montage, often a fast-paced pop song, sets the tone for the scene, to match the rhythm of the editing and to convey an enjoyment of the process. The scene will typically include a ceremony of sorts, where after they have completed their transformation, they present themselves to friends, family, and foe as their new, improved self. The character's decision to transform stems from three main reasons: to allure a member of the opposite gender, to blend in with the more popular crowd of the same gender, or as a form of self-discovery and improvement for the self. The first and arguably most common reason for a life-changing makeover scene in a film is to attract the gaze of the opposite gender. This is often centered on what feminist theorist Laura Mulvey refers to as the male gaze. Female characters throughout film history have been scripted, choreographed, positioned, and angled for the sake of both the male characters in the film and the male audience members watching the film. They walk, talk, pose, and act for the sake of the male gaze that's looking upon them, and although this is a trend that is starting to change, it's still very common. When it comes to a makeover metamorphosis of a female character, more than often she is changing for the sake of, or in the eyes of, a male character. Take The Breakfast Club for example. Alison is given a complete image change by the other female characters in the film, all for the sake of impressing Andrew, the jock. She walks up to him with her new look. Suddenly time has slowed down. His jaw drops and they both stare at each other for a while. It's clear that the scene is dramatized to emphasize how different she looks, despite the fact that it's a simple change of hair and clothing.
What's wrong? What's wrong? It's just so different.
The makeover isn't always for a potential love interest. In What a Girl Wants, Daphne decides to completely change her image for the sake of her father and his political campaign. This film, however, can't really be labelled with unnecessary makeover as a metamorphosis, as the makeover is something that none of the characters are immediately happy about. And in the end, the makeover is taken off and she is returned to her prior self. There are varying degrees of the male gaze makeover trope, some more harmful than others. Sometimes it can be seemingly innocent fun, just a nice scene to show a turning point in a relationship. However, there are times where it is built upon the concept that girls and women have to look physically attractive in order to be accepted or to get what they want. And the fact that they are doing this for a male character almost spreads a layer of internalized misogyny. Giving a character a makeover implies that there was something wrong with how they were originally. If it's for a plot-related reason, like helping a political campaign, the issue is in the character's situation. But if it's eye candy or if the story could have continued without it, the issue is in the character. To give these characters makeovers is to imply that they weren't complete. They weren't whole characters and they weren't worth anything before, especially not worth the time of the male character who was gazing upon them. The makeover that does not work towards the male gaze as a desired outcome of the transformation is to gain acceptance by a female group. The purpose of the metamorphosis in this situation is to align the transforming character with the desired or popular group, usually the same one assisting with the transformation. In the film Jawbreaker, the popular group uses the makeover as a bribe, buying her silence in the form of popularity. Courtney offers Fern the chance to become one of them, beautiful, popular, loved, feared, and all that she's ever dreamed of.
You know you want it.
Clueless uses the makeover scene as a charitable effort for the main character Cher. She takes on the project of improving Ty to convince others and herself that she's not entirely selfish.
Cher's main thrill in life is a makeover, okay? It gives her a sense of control in a world full of chaos.
In Centurions, the makeover is treated not as an in for the popular group, but as a requirement for entry into the school. If you were to reject the transformation, then you would be considered other by the pupils of the school, not just unpopular, but an outcast.
So, how'd you feel? Like some Trini.
In each of these films, the makeover is used to reaffirm the positions of each member of the popular group, old and new. The identity of these transformed characters becomes a site of tension between feminism and femininity, and the expectations of peers and the character's sense of self. Within the social hierarchy, the characters use the makeover as a transition to a new, higher social standing.
Miranda Priestley's office? No, actually, she's not available, but I'll leave word.
The third justification for metamorphosis is the self. When the character changes not for the approval of the opposite gender, their peers, or to increase their social standing, self-discovery or improvement is often the catalyst for the change. Very few self-imposed transformations are actually undertaken by women. Some of the most prominent self-transformations are taken on by men, specifically superheroes. Apart from the fact they are transforming for the good of humankind, for these superheroes, the metamorphosis is not about pleasing other people or climbing a social ladder. It's about presenting a version of themselves to the world that does not carry the flaws they perceive they have. We've seen various different Spider-Men over time, but they have all had the same awkward young Peter Parker put on the superhero suit and become a badass. It varies from story to story, but Peter wears the mask and fights crime to help him deal with the loss of his uncle, as well as to put his spider powers to use. It's a transformation he imposes on himself for his own reasons, despite that it helps other people in the long run. When it comes to the self, there is a lot of importance placed in the makeover itself, rather than what the makeover actually looks like. When a makeover is for someone else's eyes, we get slow motion panning and tilting, cuts to the other character's reactions, and all sorts of editing choices that focus on how the character looks after the makeover. Often, when a makeover is for the character who is applying it, it's more about why they're doing it, and how it affects them and the story. All Clark Kent has to do is to put on glasses and no one recognizes him as Superman. Barely any time at all is spent on exaggerating how different he looks. Instead, it is focused on him getting down to business.
Lois, there's something I have to tell you. I'm really... I was, at first, really nervous about tonight.
Honourable mentions for the makeover as a metamorphosis trope include the staircase descent,
Just another day that started out like any other. Just another girl who took my breath away. Then she turned around, took me down, and just another day that I had the best days of my life.
glasses off suddenly hot,
Maybe if we took off his glasses, it'll help.
Hey, I need those.
You got nice eyes, you know.
and the undercover makeover.
Who can turn the world on with a smile? Who can take a nothing day and suddenly make it all seem worthwhile? What is you good and you should know it. With each glance and every little movement you should...
Having narrowed down makeover films to 3 main themes, it's important to mention that not all makeover films adhere strictly to the previously outset mould. Some films take these tropes and flip them around, playing with the audience's expectations of the makeover and inverting them. In one way or another, with the original or inverted layout of the makeover film, the external changes reflect the internal changes of the character, for better or for worse.